Hello all, Sabetto here. Today we're going to be focusing on what to use with cards, what the weaknesses are and their strengths. So let's start off with the arrows. Strengths, I guess you can get down some damage onto towers, also goblin huts, tombstones, that sort of thing. But the best thing about the arrows is if someone is using goblin barrels, or someone's coming at you with maybe minions or a skeleton army, you can use the arrows to take them out easily. So I'm going to keep pausing the video because I need to keep flicking onto the relevant icons, so we'll be back soon. Okay, so now we're on to the bomber, and I really like this early game, and I still use it right now up in Arena 6, Arena 5, I'm sort of in between there. But anyway, let's get back to the episode real quick. So I actually got a lot of my members from using various troops onto using the bomber like a wizard. So if you haven't got a wizard, use the bomber like a wizard. Obviously, the only fallback is that he's weak against splash damage as well. Arrows would take him out. You've got the baby dragon air troops like minions, because of course he can't fire in the air. But he is a perfect little wizard, and for 3 elixir, worth having on your team. He will take out stuff like skeleton armies. He'll take out archers, spear goblins, you name it. Anything that small runs around, he would take out. I don't want to go too much into how we're going to use him and what we're using with. We're going to do that in another episode, so we're going to jump on to the next troop. Okay, so now we're on to the archers. I am still using these at Arena 5, Arena 6. And the reason for that is they are very tanky. You might not realise that because you're used to Clash of Clans. But in this game, they can actually take quite a bit of punishment. And also, when they manage to break through and push to a tower, if you just deploy 2 and they allow your archers to come through, I think the archers take 3 or 4 hits for the tower to take them out. So you get 2 archers, and obviously 3 or 4 hits each one, they're dishing out damage to the tower. It actually does maybe take, perhaps, depending on the level, maybe about 200 HP off of the tower. So they're great little pushers, but they are weak against arrows. Arrows would take them out. Splash damage as well. Dragons, minions, yes, I guess so, maybe, especially if it's a minion horde, but that's a troop I don't want to go into yet. I want to just talk about the early troops. So let's move on to the next one. But also want to mention the baby dragon. If you can combine these with spear goblins, and we'll go on to them in a little bit, they are great to pair up with to take on a baby dragon, but do not bunch up your air shooting troops together. So we'll be right back. So here we've got the knight. The weaknesses for the knight is skeleton hordes, or even just skeletons from like a tombstone, something like, or just a bunch of little skeletons, which is 1 elixir. Air troops, of course, he cannot shoot air, so he's vulnerable from the air. Splash damage from wizards, bombers, baby dragons, you name it. Even the witch as well, he has a hard time because of little skeletons that keep coming out. But he also saying that if you can drop him just behind the witch or just on top of the witch, he has enough damage to take her out. So the problem with him as well is because he doesn't target defences, he targets anything. He's easily distracted, so bear that in mind when you're trying to push towers. If they drop some goblins or something before he gets to the tower, he will not hit the tower. So we'll move on to the next troop. So with this card, I don't really like to use it. Some of my members do. We've had a sort of debate about it, but I don't want to go into that. So the key points to a fireball is, if they are pushing with maybe 2 or 3 tanks or big damage dealers, you can use the fireball to take down a lot of their HP. But also you can use it to take away health from a crown tower, arena tower. Does quite a bit of damage to those as well, as you can see there. Mine is, what is it, level 5, so obviously you're starting at, so you're probably level 1, level 2, so it won't be as much damage, but still does an okay amount. I wouldn't waste the fireball on hitting towers unless it's near the death and the tower is low on HP. And again, we're going to go on to mini P.E.K.K.A. now. So again, with this one, it's very similar to the knight. It costs 1 more elixir, has more damage obviously, so it would help take out a witch if deployed correctly, not obviously from your tower and has to walk up to the witch. It would probably die in that instance. But yeah, maybe taking on a giant, the giant's hitting your tower, I would use it for that, or a prince. definitely be able to help you out there. Its weaknesses is skeleton hordes, or little skeleton army I should say, or skeletons by themselves, or just a lot of troops like spear goblins, so on. But also from the air it is vulnerable, from splash damage as well. Baby dragon wizards, bombers, as long as they're well protected splash damage, it will definitely do a lot of damage to the P.E.K.K.A. So bear that in mind, it is vulnerable to the air. So we're going to move on to the musketeer now. Again, because she's a damage dealer, but ranged as well, so she can shoot air and ground troops, which is fantastic, especially early on in the game. I think she could probably 1v1 a witch. I know she does a lot of damage if well protected, but if she's pushing by herself, she's going to die real quick. So she's vulnerable against skeleton army, skeletons, like archers, spear goblins combined. Obviously you're going to have like a knight, P.E.K.K.A, something like that, be able to take her out as well. Air troops, I think a baby dragon can 1v1 or thereabouts 1v1 a musketeer. Minions as well would be able to take her out, because of course well, a minion horde would be able to. I'm not quite sure about the minions, so do forgive me for not knowing the info on that, but we're going to jump straight into another troop, and that's going to be the giant. Okay, so the giant, the positive thing about this is that he can't be distracted. So that is a positive. Apart from when I say he can't be distracted, I mean by troops being placed. But a weakness to him as well. I'll go through troops that can combat the giant, no problem. But the problem is if he's walking towards the tower, and before he gets to the tower, you manage to place down a goblin hut or a tombstone or another building like that, he will therefore attack that building instead, so he won't go for the tower. So be careful of that and watch what your enemy is using. So if they have goblin huts and they're placing them in front of towers or a tombstone, you will have problems, because when the tombstone is destroyed, it spawns 4 skeletons and they will attack the giant. But also his weaknesses is of course a horde, like a skeleton army or tombstone or skeletons, goblins, something to that nature. But also air, as I said before, the buildings distract him. Splash damage will help as well against him. So let's move on to the next one, and we're going to be taking a look at the prince. Okay, so we've got the prince. Now this one is a tricky one, and of course he is a Royale. So what can I say about the prince? Well, he is vulnerable against obviously the tombstone. You've got the skeleton army, combined troops like spear goblins and archers. If you get enough little goblins, he's easily distracted, so you can put down any troop and he will attack that into the tower. As long as you time it at the right time, he's easily distracted. But if you manage to get him through to the tower, he is perfect for bringing down a tower. But as I said before, he is easily distracted, so bear that in mind, and make sure your opponent isn't using skeleton armies. If they are, you notice that, bring arrows to a fight if using the prince, and that way you can predict when you place your prince, when they're going to place the troops, the skeleton army. Then you can use your arrows to counteract that, and your prince should be fine. So okay, let's jump on to the baby dragon. Well, there's a lot to say about this troop, the baby dragon. Everyone wants to start off with this troop, and that is because early game is really powerful. There is not much you can really do to combat it other than gang up with spear goblins, archers. If you get a musketeer or a witch, you're in luck, you can combat that, but it is very tricky. But yeah, you need to have one of those troops. If you keep coming against baby dragons, I definitely advise trying to use a witch or musketeer, but failing that, do use archers and spear goblins combined. But make sure you spread out your troops. You don't want to put them both in the same location. Get like a crossfire going, so one on the left, one on the right, or one in front, one behind, so it actually takes longer for it to deal damage to both troops, therefore taking damage. So the positive thing about that, of course, it can take out minions, it can take out little troops like skeleton armies, so that's also a perfect thing. So if you wanted to push with maybe a prince, I don't want to go too much into the troop combination, but that would be perfect because of the splash damage, and it's an air troop, so the amount of troops that can attack it is very limited. So with that said, probably the best early troop in the game, my opinion, we'll move on to the next one, which people like this one as well, is the Skeleton Army. So the problems with Skeleton Army is splash damage will take it out in no time. As I said, that's why a lot of people use bombers as well, but arrows will take it out. Most of them, if you get a good arrow, you take all of them out. Air troops as well, as baby dragon or minions, will take them out. Obviously, they can't shoot the air, but the positive thing is they can bring down something like a P.E.K.K.A, a knight, a giant, a prince. They can take them down really, really fast. Musketeer, not the witch. The witch they're very weak against because of the skeletons. They focus the skeleton instead of the witch, and the witch does plenty of damage to them. So avoid using those on the witch. And let's move on to our last one of this episode. We will go on to the witch. Okay, so there is not really a lot if she has a good tank in front of it. There's not really much you can do about the witch unless you deploy your troops on top of her or just behind it. You need something like a P.E.K.K.A would be good, a mini P.E.K.K.A, a knight, a musketeer, but you don't really want to put a musketeer behind. You need that, but I think the musketeer can easily 1v1 a witch, as long as there's not too many skeletons, not too many other interferences. The prince as well, depends. Again, if she's already got some skeletons in front of her, she keeps spawning them, you will have a hard time dealing with. So your best bet is probably a musketeer. If you're suffering a lot with witches, do not use the skeleton army, because she is very strong against them. Splash damage, yeah, because of the skeletons. Once they get through the skeletons, then she will fall really quickly against a wizard, but that's going too far into the game. I don't really want to mention them troops yet, because we will be going arena to arena and talk about all the troops available and all the buildings and the strong points and the weak points about them. So I hope you found this episode really useful, and I will be releasing tips on troop combinations, so you can try out obviously the troops and spells that I've mentioned and try and combine them to help you raid better. So if you like this video, please leave a like and comment. Thanks for watching all, and bye for now.